Okay, welcome everybody. So this is the September event of the OpenAI App Explorers meetup. So we're going to talk about computer use agents. So computer use agents are basically getting the computer to pretend you're using the browser. So there is an actual model that's out there called computer use preview, which is what we're going to do. So instead of it being the model, ChatGPT 4.0 that you would call from the API, you're actually calling the computer use preview. A couple of caveats before we start. This is in beta, so I won't say that it works perfectly, but it works to an extent. But we're dealing with some issues with the general functions of the web that you're not going to be able to get around. So Cloudflare is going to stop you. Captchas are going to stop you, that kind of thing. So while it does work in some certain senses, it's not kind of like as deterministic as some of the other things that we can do with LLMs today. But like I said, it's in beta, so I suspect that this is going to get a major rework when the developer group happens. The OpenAI developer group happens in October. So maybe by this time next month, it's going to be a lot more production ready. But it's even they're saying, even OpenAI is saying, don't use this for production app. But I can't resist, so I always have to try whatever the new thing is. So we'll look at what computer use agents are, first of all. Then we'll look at how we're going to call it from the API. So my interest is always going to be, how is this going to make me more efficient? I'm really hoping that in the long term, the computer use agents will eventually allow me to retire all my day-to-day tasks and basically hand them off to ChatGPT. I'm finding a lot more success with MCPs lately, but CUA it's kind of like the holy grail if it actually works. Or maybe it will do once it gets out of beta. Okay, so here is the agenda. We're going to look at the web version because the web version is, sorry, just have to let somebody else in. The web version is a hell of a lot easier to understand. So if you don't understand what computer use agents are, after I just show you how to use it on the web, it's going to be pretty obvious how it works. There are several different types of versions of computer use agents. Most of what we're going to focus on tonight, in fact, all of what we're going to focus on tonight, are the browser-based ones. So basically what it does, it fires up a browser and then you interact with the browser. So if you've done any QA testing with tools like Playwright or Selenium, it's kind of using that to be able to drive the browser. There are other versions as well, so you can fire up a virtual machine, so you get entire operating system. So there's a Linux version, a Mac version, and there's a Windows version. I'm not going to touch on those because I really didn't have any success with them at all. So we're going to skip it till the new version of the CUA is shipped in probably next month, hopefully. So we're going to talk about the CUA loop as well. So the CUA loop, that's the way everything works. So you send it a request. You send the request to the LLM. So the LLM basically takes that request, sends it to the web page, takes a picture of the web page, uses the Vision API to see what's on the web page, makes a decision based on what's returned, clicks on the web page, and then it's wash, rinse, repeat until the objective that you've asked it for has been achieved. We're going to look at some setup stuff on the API side. So OpenAI published a GitHub repo, which is why I started on this wonderful little trip about computer use agents. So we're going to use that to basically do our initial configuration. And then as with all of the OpenAI examples that are out there, they always seem to just have way so much extra fluff in them. So I basically created my own version of the GitHub repo, and I have 3 examples. So we have a weather lookup. There's a job search. So like I said, I focus a lot of this on something practical that I'm trying to do day to day. So one of the MCPs that we run is that every day we look for certain keywords against the Indeed MCP and use that to create leads in a CRM and try to do that in an automated fashion. So I'm basically was trying to do the same with our computer use agents here. And the last thing is, because most of the examples that I saw that were out there were basically just browsing the web. They weren't doing anything. So I wanted to add my little spin on this and enter data in a contact form. So we're going to pull up the, I work for a company called Reese. So we're going to pull up the Reese contact form of the website. We're just going to fill in the data and click on the submit form. And that was actually harder than I thought, because the computer use agent has a couple of things. So it has some safety checks. So it's going to ask you, hey, do you really want to do this? And the loop won't know that you really want to do this. So you got to be able to program it to watch out for some of the things that some of the exceptions that it's going to throw up. You have to catch those exceptions, and you have to be able to process them so you can get your contact form submitted. And then we'll talk about some of the caveats that are out there. Okay, so I live in Detroit, and the Detroit Tigers are doing their very best to absolutely lose the Central Division. They're playing Cleveland tonight. So when I was doing it last week, I was saying, find me tickets for Friday's Detroit Tigers game. So let's just get out of this for a second. If you are in ChatGPT, I've already done this once, so I'm just going to cut and paste it. You are in ChatGPT and you want to use this, you don't want to do any Python. You can do it if you click on the agent mode here. So basically what happens is you just say, find me the tickets for the next Detroit Tigers game versus Cleveland Indians. I know that they're playing tonight, tomorrow, and the next night. So we'll just start that while we're waiting for that to start up. I'll admit somebody else. Got 18 people, this is great. So hopefully you can see there that it's actually trying to figure out where to go. So it's going, okay, where am I going to find tickets? It's going to open a tab. It's going to SeatGeek. I don't think it's going to have a lot of luck with SeatGeek. And then there are a couple of things you can do too as well. So if it's got a CAPTCHA, you can take over the browser so that you can tell it, you can hit whatever the guess whatever one is, the cat sitting on a crosswalk or whatever it is that they're giving you there. Sometimes there's Cloudflare stuff that comes up that you have to be able to worry about. So you can do that too as well. So it's going to go on its merry way, and then you can, as it's going, you can, rewind it to see how it got to the decision it's getting to. So all that sort of stuff. We'll tell you it takes quite some time. So here is one I prepared earlier. So basically, we'll maybe return to it a second. I said, find me tickets, a couple of interesting things. So it basically found them on StubHub. So I guess StubHub let it in. So then you can click on StubHub, go order your tickets if they're still there. Okay, well, it didn't even get me to the one that I wanted to. Okay, continue. Another thing that I thought was interesting that I just noticed is you have some more actions, so you can schedule it too as well. So if I'm looking to find the jobs that I was looking for and I want to run it every day, then I can basically do this through the ChatGPT web interface and get it to be scheduled. So it's going to do that and then send whatever we find either into a CSV or Google Sheets or into a CRM. Okay, so here's where we're basically going. So basically what we're trying to do is we are trying to get ChatGPT to emulate what we do on a day-to-day basis for whatever job it is that we're trying to do. We want to, or whatever you're doing for your entertainment. If you want to, like my wife is always asking for tickets for Jimmy Fallon or whatever, Stephen Colbert. So this would be great. So you could set it up so it would schedule it for the first of the month when they release the tickets, that kind of thing. You don't have to be there at 12 o'clock at night. Okay, let's get back to our slides now. So here's another simple example. So basically what I did here is, this takes a while too as well, so why don't I go there? So this is the CUA sample app that's up on the GitHub repo. All of the links that I have are in the resources, and I'll put the slides up right after this talk so you can get the resources. Plus all my stuff is there too as well. So essentially what it's doing is it's opening up browser, it's going to Bing, and I asked it from the command line. So that's this thing here, this CLI.py. I just asked it what's the way that I can port Sonic, which is one of my favorite places in Michigan. And then essentially what it's going to do is it's going to find what the weather is. You'll see a lot of examples that are very similar to this. What they're actually doing is they're just browsing the web, and they're not really interacting with the web. It will actually tell you what the weather is, so it will pull the information back and tell you what the current weather was. So if you can then use that, I guess, as a pipeline for something else, then I guess that's why we would find it a bit more useful. Okay, so how do we do that? So we go to this repo, we do git clone from this repo. You do pip install requirements.txt, which is basically going to install all the dependencies. So there's usually, half a dozen files in there. OpenAI, there will be pillows in there. There's playwrights in there. And then even when you get it working, you have to say playwright install, and playwright install is going to install the Chromium browser so that Playwright can use it. So it's kind of a little bit confusing because OpenAI is using other third-party software to be able to interact with the browser. So there's Playwright, there's BrowserBase, and there's Scrappy-Barra, I think is the other one that they're using. I've used Playwright in the past, so I just stuck with Playwright, and it's worked pretty well for me. But if you've used any of those tools, then you might want to have a look at those. And then you basically what you do is you say Python CLI.py and then -- computer local playwright because you want it to get to work with Playwright. And then you're saying what's the weather like in Port St. Lucie, Michigan. So that's not exactly great if you're trying to automate this thing, because all I've done is just taken what we were doing within the web chat and I've just moved it to writing it from within my my terminal window. So not exactly great. So there's got to be a better way to fix this. So, and you can do other things like I've asked it to go onto Newegg and find the price of an Acer laptop, and it'll give me the different prices. It'll download images if you want it to download images. It will give you a CSV file if you want to give it a CSV file. Okay, so, but how is it working in the background? So this is the CUA loop, the computer use agent loop. It's just how everything works. So we're going round and round and round. So we gave it an objective which said, find the weather in Port St. Lucie, Michigan. So I passed that. So we're right here, number one. We passed it to the model. The model is not, it's called computer use preview. So if you're used to doing your API calls using Python and calling GPT, you'll be calling GPT 3.5 up to GPT 5. We're actually calling the model computer use preview. So within this, what happens is it is going to see what the browser is using Playwright, and it's going to look at a picture of it. So basically what it does, it takes a screenshot of each picture of each. At that time, it takes a screenshot of the browser to see what's going on. And then it starts to understand, okay, well, I need to do something. So what do I need to do? I need to click whatever these coordinates are. And it does this in the computer environment, or it does it within a browser. And then it takes a screenshot, passes that screenshot back to the model, and the model goes, okay, well, I haven't really got very far. Maybe what I should do next is I should enter the text into the text bar. So then the computer tool call, it's going to call that. It's going to do its application code to enter the data into the browser window. And then the screenshot returns round and round until it actually sees what the weather is like in Port St. Lucie, Michigan, and then it outputs to your terminal. Okay. All right, so like I said, and you just do this over and over until the task is done. And then we'll get stuck from, obviously from time to time, and I'll show you an example of that when we get to the job search, because Dice worked for me, but Indeed didn't, so it's worth looking to see what happens there. Okay, so like I said, I want this to make me more efficient. So I want this to be working in the background. I don't really want to have anything to do with this. I don't want to be notified that I need to give some input. I want to basically move away from the command line interface, the CLA.py, and I want to run it in a Python file and want it to just maybe run on a scheduled basis once a day to get me the jobs, or to check to see if there's an event or an airplane flight or something that's going for cheap. Do not want to be involved. So how do I do that? So the series of things that we need to do is we need to launch a browser with playwrights. We need to figure out how to do that first. we need to start the loop. So how do we start the loop? So we send an initial query to the computer use preview model with whatever our request is. Then we pass that initial response to our CUA loop. So we have an outside, we have a main function which basically just calls the computer use preview, and then we have a CUA loop which is multiple calls to computer use preview, and each time we pass in the browser object, whatever the page is that we're on, and I believe the model too as well. And then it goes on its merry way. It'll finally come to some sort of an answer after a while, and then it'll print out the final response, and that closes the browser. So that's basically what we're trying to create within our Python file. And we have a couple of different examples. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to launch the file. So I took this from the main.py from the OpenAI CUA repo. There's nothing in here which is any LLM related. This is all just basically Playwright code. So what are we doing? We are launching Chrome. We are sending it to bing.com. And we are giving it a width of 1024 by 768. And then we're just waiting for a timeout. And then we're basically just going to close it after that. Nothing else. Disabling extensions, disabling file system, just keeping it on its own. As I said, we're using Playwright to interact with the browser, but you could also use Browser Base if you're more used to that, or Scrappy Barra if you have an account. Didn't need an account for Playwright. It's another reason I want to use it. You could also start an entire Linux or Windows desktop, but like I said, that doesn't seem to be working quite well yet. If you do want to use an entire desktop, we did look at Claude in one of the previous meetups, and that seemed to go quite well. So you might want to take a look at one of the earlier meetups and look at that too as well. So just for now, in the code, we launch a Chrome browser, size 1024 by 768, and navigate to Bing. Okay, so this is the initial call. So remember what we said, what we're going to do. Let's go back again. We're going to launch a browser with Playwright. We're going to send the initial query to computer use preview model. We're going to pass that response to our loop, and then the loop is going to take care of everything and print out a response. So the initial call is very similar to any other call we've made in the past to the OpenAI API. We're using responses. This doesn't work. There are two types of API calls that you can do now to OpenAI. There's the chat completion and the responses. Computer use preview only works with responses, so we have to use that. The model we're using is computer use preview that you can see here. The tool is the browser, so the type is computer use preview, and here's what the size is. So we're just telling it that we're using a browser, and then, like I said, you can use Mac, Windows, or Ubuntu. And then we give it its first input message, and its first input message, this one's check the latest OpenAI news on bing.com. There, you have to add reasoning. So within GPT-5, one of the things that changed was there were different settings for reasoning. So did you want it to spend a short amount of time, a medium amount of time, or a long amount of time on reasoning? And then within our computer use preview, we have reasoning can be concise or detailed. I've only ever used concise, and I hear detailed doesn't work in the current version. And then we want to print out whatever the output is when we're finished. But this really, basically, well, if we print out the output, we're going to get this response. So it's telling us that it can't see the browser, and can you please pass me a screenshot? So it's saying, I need a screenshot here under action type screenshot. And then the type is computer call. So I want to be able to see what's in the screenshot and then pass it to the computer environment so I can figure out what I want to do next. You'll notice in here there's this thing called pending safety checks and set to null. If you start using this in anger and start using it for real things, you're going to find that pending safety checks, when you fill in data and try to enter submit forms, will come up with some errors. So with some checks, so you got to be able to. I'll show you how to get past those in the last example. Okay. All right, so we've done our initial query, so now we need our loop. So this is what the loop is. I stole this from a resource that's in the resources, and that person also has a couple of different videos on this too as well if you want to find it. But essentially what we're doing is we have, what do we have? We have computer use models, so we have computer use preview. We have our tools call. Our tool is basically the browser that we set up. We have our input, and the input is the screenshot that we're passing in. So that's the screenshot of the browser. And if it comes back and says, you know what, I haven't really figured this out, I need another computer call, which is just what we saw here, computer call. Basically what's going to go is it's going to loop around again and do it again. So there's only ever going to be, well, we're assuming there's only going to be there should only ever be one computer call in your response, so this should work. So it's going to go round and around and around. It's going to say, okay, here's the tools that you have, browser. Here's the input that you have, screenshot. You know what the request is, and the request is, what's the weather in Port Sanac? And until it comes up with an answer, it's basically going to continue going on to this loop, trying to hit things. I won't say it's randomly, but it's sort of randomly, especially if it's on a complicated website. And then hopefully it gets to its answer in the end, and it's going to return the response. And when it returns the response, your main application is going to capture that and just print it out for you on the terminal, or pass it on to something else, depending on what you want to do. Okay, and then we close the browser. All right, so let's run through a simple call to find the images of a red sports car. I just have a quick video here. And of course, it's in the other window. Just to show you what it's like. So it opens up the window. In the next versions, I'm going to show you what the output is from the terminal too as well. Like I said, it's random. It opened a new tab there. It's going into images. It's hopefully going to search for a red sports car. Put it into the search there. Okay, it's going to come up with red sports cars, and then eventually it's going to pick one of the sports cars. I think it's whatever the first one is. It's going to pick it up now. There's a couple of things that are up here. It's like I don't really know how websites are going to work when I'm looking for something. So I didn't know that these prices were going to come up for these cars, but at least it's intelligent enough that it knows it can kind of skip that. And what I was really looking for was just something for a wallpaper, so I could use it for something else. So yep, speed it a bit, then that's what pops up. And then eventually it's just going to close the browser. Okay, so pretty basic. So what have we done so far? We've basically got it to find the weather, find me a sports car. Can I do something a little bit more complicated? Like I said, I'm not really interested in using CUA for the examples that we have so far. I'm looking for, let's be honest, I'm trying to find developers for lots of the work that we're trying to do. So it would be great, or we're trying to find certain types of jobs that people are looking for, and then we're going to see if they would, want to use a professional services company like ours to do it. So there's a couple of reasons why I want to be looking for a job, looking for different things out there. So it'd be great if I could set up a job that would do the daily sales work for me, and see who's looking for new drone or Android developers. And the last one I want to do is, I don't want to fill in forms on the web. I want to ultimately give my code agency to book a plane ticket or a hotel registration or apply for the job. So I'm trying to move in that direction, and it works pretty good so far. I won't say it's perfect, but it's definitely going in the right direction. Hold on, I have to let somebody else in. No, they're gone. Okay, so to move in that direction, let's see if we can get it to fit on a contact form, because if we can't do that, then we're really in trouble. All right, so this is the video. So I'm going to look at how to search for a job on dice.com, and then I'm going to show you the issue that we had in Indeed.com, and I'll change that later and show you where the code is. Okay, find a job. What I did want to do this time is just show you the responses that we're getting with the terminal, so you can see how it's working, because it's a bit more illustrative of how everything works. Okay. All right, so it's smart enough to know that it needs to get rid of the cookies. Actually, let me see if I can find the code too as well on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can find the code, and then I'm going to change it to Indeed to show you what's happening with Indeed, because Indeed is not great. So it's filling an Android developer. Great. Okay, it's looking for Detroit, Michigan. Let's speed it up a bit. So it did a couple of things here which I didn't really expect it to do. It knew that I didn't want remote jobs, and it was seeing remote jobs. So it kind of intuited that I didn't want remote jobs. I was looking for an Android developer job in Detroit, and all it could seem to come up with are a lot of remote jobs. So it clicked on the filters to try and see if it could filter for remote jobs. Didn't do very well at it, gotta say. And then it clicks on the job. So I was hoping what it would do is start to collect the different jobs. I asked it for 10 jobs at one stage, which it didn't do very good. And now it's going back to say, okay, I can't get the filter to turn on for remote, so I'm going to ask for on-site Android developer. And again, remote comes up, but that's probably more to do with DICE than it is to do with what's going on here. And on the left-hand side, you can see the responses that we're getting. Again, it's asking for compute call each stage. That's how you know it's not done. Okay. All right, so let me show you what's going on if I try to do Indeed, because this is one of the first caveats that we have. Okay. Just going to get my environment set up so I don't have to add anything. Let's check to see where I'm going. I will explain the code in a lot more detail when I get there. So I was going to DICE because DICE doesn't have any Cloudflare things that are going to stop me. So if I try this now, app 3. Should open the browser pretty soon. And then another thing that's worth noticing too as well is that here it is. It's just open it over here. DICE is completely different from Indeed, and it knows that where to go. It's not like it's learning exactly where you're telling it to put it each time. It's intuiting where in the screen. It's recognizing what the screen looks like, and it knows that it needs to enter it here, which is pretty cool, I think. So Android developer. I'm really close to Oak Park, Michigan, so I think it's just picking that up as the nearest. And then when it's going to search, you never know. The demo gods might be good to me for a change, because now that I'm trying to show something bad, maybe the demo gods are going to let me through with this and not do a Cloudflare thing, but we'll see. Okay, so this is actually working now. What's going on here? You can see that it's doing a computer call. That means it's nowhere near done. It's going to do a search now. Obviously, you always want to do this in the background, don't you? Oh, so it's even worse. It's basically said, I've entered Android developer as the job title, set the location, Detroit, Michigan. Would you like me to proceed with the search? So it just bailed anyway, didn't even get there. So let me just get that to run, and I'll let it run the background, and I see if I see any Cloudflare stuff come up. Okay, all right. Let's return to our examples. Okay, so the last example I want to do is a contact form. So I want the model to open reese.com. I want it to go to the contact us page, and I wanted to enter name, Godfrey Nolan, email, godfrey@reese.com, and enter the message, which is hello from the OpenAI meetup, and then click on the submit button when the form is complete. If all goes well, I should get emailed this contact thing. So basically what happens is anybody who comes to our website starts entering a question. It's going to email me, and we follow up the lead. It's kind of one of the goals of what we try to do is get people to go enter stuff in our contact form. So let's see what happens. So when I did this the first time, it looked like it failed at the last hurdle. It basically just stopped. So I'm going to show you what that video looks like. I see my friend still going. Okay. Do the contact form. So we get to this stage. It's going to enter the whatever the message is, hello from the OpenAI meetup, and then it just basically stops. So when this happened, I was quite surprised that it stopped. So let's have a look at the error that it actually gave me. So the error, as you see in the corner, what I'm doing each time is I'm capturing all the comments that come back. So in this case, it said a bit like what we had earlier. I filled out the contact form of the Reese website with the information provided. Should I go ahead and submit it? So there's a couple of things that we want to check for. So we want to check for pending safety checks. That's the first thing I want to check for. And then the second thing we want to check for is this error here, which is, should I go ahead and submit it? And it always seems to give me more or less the same sort of information, the same sort of conversation each time. Okay, so what do we do with the code? So our code is, this is if not computer called. So I'm putting this within the computer use agent loop. So what do we have? We have an extra call within the computer use agent loop, which is saying if not computer calls. So normally what we do is we just break and give it back to the main function, and the main function would handle that and basically give the user the final answer. But what I want to do is I search to see if it says if asks to submit. So I have a couple of things in here saying, is it saying, should I submit? Would you like me to? All those sort of things. I'm capturing that. And then I'm passing back another response to computer use preview to say, use the same tools, but yes, submit the form now. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing that before it gets out of the loop and sending it back in its merry way. And then after that, what it does is it goes and gives me the form. Okay. So let me show you what that looks like. Maybe see if our buddy had any more fun. No, looks like he gave up again. All right. Like I said, none of this is deterministic, unfortunately. Okay, so we are running the code, which is the fixed code. So it's got its acknowledged safety check in here, and it's got its extra call, and its extra call is basically going to say, if it asks you to submit, please submit. So we're entering our name, we're entering our email. It's entering the email, and it's entering the message. I'm not doing anything here. And now it's trying to figure out, please acknowledge this warning if you'd like to proceed. So it's got a safety check. So my acknowledged safety check has been acknowledged. And now it's going to say, should I submit this? And I'm going to capture that and say, yes, I do. You want to submit it? And then it finally submits it. And then I just want to show you that it actually submitted it. I successfully filled out and submitted the contact form of the Reese website with the provided details. There you go. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the code so we can see how it's all put together. So here's where my code is. I am going to show you the simplest one, which is the computer loop for the red car. So we have, what do we have? So we have our input message, find me the image of a red sports car. We have the tools, which is computer use preview. So we're basically saying it's a browser instead of being anything else. We have some imports for Playwright. We want to be able to get a screenshot. So it's basically going to take a screenshot using Playwright. I want to go down to the bottom to start off. So this is where we open up our Chromium browser. We define what the browser is. We send it to bing.com. We pass it its first request, which is the input message that we had up at the top. The input message being find me the image of a sports car. Okay. And then we're just going to print out what the response is for the first one. So, okay, so this is my initial response. So then what I want to do then is I want to pass that initial response. So I'm passing the browser, I'm passing the page, and I'm passing the response to my computer use loop. My computer use loop is this loop here. So what this does is says, if I got a computer call in the response, which tells me that this is not finished. Let me make this bigger. Even I can't see it, I'm right beside it. So if I have a computer use call in my response object, that means I'm not finished. If I don't have, basically what I want to do is just break and give the user the final output. If I do have a computer call, I want to get a screenshot, and I'm going to pass that into my second call to the to OpenAI, to the client responses crate, to the model computer use preview. We always pass in the previous response ID, so it understands what the history of the conversation was. The tools is the browser, and then the input is a screenshot of it. So the response that's going to come back is it's going to figure out where it's going to click next, or it's going to figure out where it's going to put the information in next. And if the response comes back with a computer call, it's also going to continue going on in the loop until we break out of the loop. There is some extra code in here, which is handling clicks and scrolls and key presses. And I could probably do some more with this stuff because I've noticed that some of it isn't recognizing some of the control functionality. So I did take this from one of the resources. So basically, it knows what to do with clicking, scrolling, key pressing, typing, and waiting. Okay. All right, so that's the code. That's the basic code to get everything working. So all of that code is in computer use preview. I have each of the different examples. First one to fire up browser, the one for the initial query for the port Sonilac, the showing you the initial query, which doesn't do anything. The initial query does check the latest news. So that's just like a normal standard call that you would get within OpenAI. So app 2 is the calling the red car. App 3 is the finding a job. App 4 is putting in the pending safety checks. And then app 5 is everything working together so we can fill in the contact form and it will do the submission. Okay, so that's done with that. Looks like it's got some tickets for me for tomorrow night's game, but I'm not driving to Cleveland. Do I not trust the Tigers? No, I do not trust the Tigers. Okay, here's another one which I thought was interesting. So this is Droid CUA. So there's a couple of examples out there of other environments that you might want to use, and this one is using the OpenAI's computer use preview. So if you want to do this on an Android phone, then you can. This shows you how to set that up. Here is a really good resource that I got. A lot of the code for the key presses and everything else. I took it here. Also worth looking at his videos where he goes into the code into probably more detail than I do. Here is some information on how computer use is, how it fits together. We did set up a local browsing environment, but if you want to set up a local virtual machine and see if you can use Docker to set that up, then you might want to try that. I didn't get it to do much controlling, so I kind of skipped that for this talk. Maybe do it again in the future. Okay. All right, a couple of things to finish off. Caveats, because there's a big list of caveats. So it's browser-based, not OS-based for the moment. It's still in beta. It's not good with CAPTCHAs, and it's not good with Cloudflare. So I'm sure you've seen those messages saying we're trying to detect if you're a human, and you basically have to take it over. So you're going to have to figure out a way to write the code within your API code to take it over. So there may be some possibilities doing that, but I did find that a lot of the different websites that I went to, I was getting blocked by Cloudflare. And then the other thing is it's not, computer use preview is not available to everyone. So I use OpenAI a lot. So I don't know if I'm on a good list or a special list, but I pay for the pro version. And also, I pay for people at my company, so I may have a bit more. They may be giving it to me earlier than other people, but I've talked to some other people who just don't have it yet. So if you don't have it, it's probably because you're not in the pro version or you're not on the team version, unfortunately. So I'm also thinking that one of the biggest caveats is that the developer user group, the OpenAI developer user group, is next month in October, and they always have huge announcements. And hopefully one of those is that this comes out of beta. If not, I would expect it at the 12 days of Christmas. So they did do the 12 days of the holidays coming up to the end of the year, and they release something new every day. So hopefully, if it doesn't come out next month, it'll come out towards the end of the year. Because certainly, like I said, it's definitely in beta. And then the resources. So here's where it all starts. The computer use agent. If you want to go in more detail, the repo that I just showed you, the sample. If you want to call it from within the platform, which is how I got started with a lot of what I do. Basically, what I do is I write the code in the playground, and then export the code from there. And then the two repos that if you want to have the shortened version of the CUA sample are there too as well. So the OpenAI responses tutorial, and then the code that I put up walking through what we did this evening. Okay, I think that's it for me. Has anybody got any questions?
I have a question.
Go, Brian.
So the code for the clicking and scrolling, was that specific to either Bing or Playwright? I mean, once you have that, can you switch around browsers? Yeah,
you can switch around browsers. I did this with Chrome, and I did this with Bing, and it seemed to work quite well. And okay, I should probably show you some of the code too as well. So within this, there are versions of what you can do to to change it for whatever other environments that you want. So it will do, at the moment, it'll do Playwright, it'll do Docker, it'll do browser-based. But if you use browser-based, you can basically use any browsers that you want, because browser-based will test different browsers. So you can basically get in there through browser-based. So that's, if you have some unique browser that is not Chrome or Bing, then I would go there. There's a couple of examples here as well. There's a function calling example, and there's a weather example, but it's not much. It's just showing you how to call the different third-party tools that they're using. But yeah, Brian, you shouldn't have any problem. Just cut and paste the code, and if you get stuck, just let me know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
After having played around with it for a little while now, what's your absolute favorite use case with it?
Finding jobs. I sent it on its merry way and said, go find me. It's a lot easier for us because I do a lot of drone stuff, so we have very specific names of jobs that we're looking for. So there's ATAC, there's PX4, Q ground control. So they're kind of unusual names to look for, and it did really well. Like it found stuff that I didn't find anywhere. It was running for 20 minutes, so it's not like it does it in, I'm speeding stuff up a lot here, but it will run for 20 minutes and then just output it. And then I just take that and put it into a CRM and get somebody else to follow up. It's really good at that.
Okay, so it's not actually applying for it, just finding it for you, bringing it back?
No, I think if I was going to apply for it, I would use an MCP. So there's MCPs that will connect to Indeed. There's one that it's really easy to set up within Claude. So I would basically tell the MCP to apply to it for a job for me. So what you could do, wouldn't be that hard, would be to use this to find all the jobs, because it finds weird stuff because it's going places I didn't even know existed. So it's finding more jobs than I would do by just going to a single dice.com or Indeed. And then you could basically have some extra code that connects your MCP and then apply for the job through the MCP, because that's way more deterministic than this is.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just wanted to throw a reminder out there. If you're on YouTube, you could also ask us questions. We've got a couple of viewers there today also. So feel free to ask if you're on YouTube.
All right.
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Go, Brian.
In the very beginning, you talked about there being two versions. The one we looked at today was sort of visual. Was the other version something that's going to like sort of read the web page HTML and interact with HTML?
No, the other version is also using the Vision API, but it gives you access to the entire computer. So you could basically say, go search for these jobs and put it in a spreadsheet. So it'll open the spreadsheet and cut and paste it across. That's what it'll do. Well, allegedly, it's because it's not actually that good at doing that, which is why I'm not demoing it this evening. The Claude one is quite good at that, but so far they're saying don't use this for production, and it's only going to be 40% effective on the OS version, which is the Windows, Mac, or Ubuntu. But it will definitely come. It's coming, but it's not interpreting the HTML. It's using the Vision API. It's saying, okay, I know that the shortcut for Excel is in my list of icons. It's going to click on that Excel icon, open it for you, and then start cutting and pasting using Control-X, Control-V, because it knows that's what the commands are.
I would have thought possibly that reading the HTML, a language model reading the HTML and interacting directly that way, I don't know, maybe that's a lot harder than doing it visually.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. But if you remember, we did the Agents SDK when it was in beta, and then when the Agents SDK came out, it was completely different.
Yeah.
So it might be the same thing here. We'll know in a month or two anyway. Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. Really enjoyed this tonight. I had great fun putting this together. If anybody's got anything they want me to look at, let me know. I'm not too sure what we're going to do next month just yet, but I'll probably post it in a day or two.